How many times have you felt the weight of someone's resentment for no apparent reason? How many times have you felt the hostility of others without really understanding its origin? And in those circumstances, how did you react? Maybe you felt confused, hurt, or even frustrated. Let's dive into a Zen story that explores these universal feelings through the ancient teachings of Buddhist wisdom. And stay until the end, because you will discover the 8 reasons why people hate you. Through the words of the wise old monk Ariko, you will understand the deep roots of resentment and aversion and learn to resist this negative energy that ruins your inner peace. But before continuing, if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and share the video. In this way, you will help us produce new content every day for your spiritual growth. In a quiet monastery, immersed in the serenity of the garden, the elderly monk Ariko, guide and spiritual teacher, sat among the flowers and the singing of birds. His disciples were waiting for him, ready to absorb his wise words that would illuminate the path to understanding and inner peace. Have you ever felt hostility from someone for no apparent reason why they hate you? Ariko began. You must know that the roots of hatred and aversion often arise from misunderstanding, internal suffering, and lack of compassion. And today we will explore these roots from a Buddhist perspective, understanding the 8 underlying causes, so that this will help us on our path to peace. The monk began to explore the first reason why people, often for no apparent reason, dislike us: mutual incomprehension. What some psychologists today would call the game of warped mirrors, dear disciples, can generate great misunderstandings. Remember that clarity in communication is crucial to avoid misunderstandings. And communicating in the correct way, avoiding errors that distort reality, inducing others to think inaccurate things, requires a series of precautions. First of all, you need to be able to practice active listening to really understand what others think. So it is essential to filter everything through awareness and compassion, and finally be able to think carefully before speaking. While the disciples took notes metaphorically, showing their great interest in the master's words, Ariko moved on to the second reason: envy and jealousy. Imagine 2 great friends who own 2 farms. They both work very hard, but one of them achieves success, while the other barely survives. The first, to celebrate the successes of this company, organizes a party where everyone can have fun: employees, clients, and citizens. The other, instead of rejoicing with his friend, focuses on the comparison and begins to harbor feelings of envy and jealousy. Perhaps the friend who was more successful should have communicated better with the other, making sure that he did not feel inferior to him, the monk added. Know that cultivating joy and gratitude is essential to counteract envy, recognizing that true satisfaction does not come from comparisons with others, concluded Ariko. The third reason the monk talked about was related to differences in values. Our beliefs constitute our identity. It is normal for each of us to have different values and points of view on the big questions in life. Buddhism teaches us to seek understanding of different perspectives without necessarily changing our beliefs, but rather developing mutual respect. Therefore, when communicating, we must always try to keep in mind that the other may have a different vision than ours, a vision that, although not shared, must be respected. Ariko, happy to see the disciples absorbed in their stories, addressed the fourth reason: projection. Projection is a psychological phenomenon in which we attribute our unwanted feelings, thoughts, or motivations to another person. In other words, we project onto them aspects of ourselves that we do not appreciate or refuse to accept. This process usually occurs unconsciously and can significantly influence our interactions and relationships with others. Imagine, Ariko continued, A person who, without being aware of it, is full of anger. This person might project this negative emotion onto others, convincing themselves that the people they deal with are angry with them. This distorted way of seeing the other will generate resentment. In these cases, the monk continued, meditation and awareness can be valuable tools for recognizing projection patterns, promoting greater understanding of oneself and others. Looking inward is essential to dissolving resentment and building more authentic relationships. The fifth reason why we are often hated is linked to gossip. Gossip is often based on speculation, distortions of the truth, or privileged information, and can spread quickly and cause considerable damage, Arico said. Gossip often arises because someone who learns information about another person, perhaps more prominent in the community, feels it is important to be able to share it with others. But the consequences of engaging in gossip can be far-reaching and long-lasting, harming both the person who is the target of the gossip and the person who spreads it. Remember, the word should be used to promote kindness and understanding, rather than sow division or suffering. Being aware of the harmful effects of gossip allows us to carefully choose the words we use. The sixth reason that can generate hatred or aversion towards a person is a lack of empathy. Often, when we fail to put ourselves in the shoes of others or understand their experiences and feelings, an emotional void can arise, resulting in misunderstandings and relational tensions, said the master. Imagine a situation where a person is going through a difficult period in his life. You have faced very painful personal challenges and are in a vulnerable emotional state. But a friend of hers, despite everything, seems to be completely unaware of her difficulties and continues to treat her with indifference or focused solely on his own needs. The lack of empathy on the part of the friend, unable to perceive the pain and challenges experienced by the other, can generate resentment and aversion. When people do not recognize or respect the emotions of others, emotional barriers are created that can lead to reinforcing mutual contempt. Remember that empathy is essential from the Buddhist view. In fact, cultivating the ability to put yourself in the shoes of others allows you to overcome prejudices and misunderstandings, paving the way for a deeper connection and peaceful coexistence. As the day drew to a close, Arico talked about the seventh reason why people resent us: fear of the unknown. Fear of the unknown is a powerful and often paralyzing emotion that occurs when we are faced with situations, people, or concepts that are unfamiliar or familiar, Arico said. This fear is deeply rooted in the human self-preservation instinct and can significantly influence our reactions and perceptions. Therefore, if we do not know who we are facing, we can feel intimidated and show a defensive attitude. Fear of the unknown can cause reactions of rejection or resistance towards what we do not fully understand. This resistance can manifest itself through prejudice, hasty judgments, or defensive attitude. Buddhism teaches us that we can and should approach the unknown with an open and curious mind, learning and growing through new experiences. Finally, Arico moved on to the eighth motive: attachment to the past. Attachment to the past is a motive that can generate aversion or conflict in human relationships, stated the monk. This phenomenon occurs when a person remains firmly anchored to past events, experiences, or relationships. Let's imagine a person who has suffered betrayal and who, when interacting with new individuals, fears that they are also willing to betray him. Buddhism teaches us that attachment to the past is considered one of the obstacles to the realization of true happiness. Arico added, "Therefore, we must learn to leave the past behind, to forgive and live in the present, opening the doors to a new vision of life." But what is the moral that emerges from this trip? That in a world full of emotions, Complexity and human diversity, mutual understanding and compassion are the key to overcoming hostility and building meaningful relationships. And at the heart of Buddhist wisdom, we find an invitation to look beyond apparent surfaces, to put ourselves in the shoes of others, and to cultivate kindness. In conclusion, the moral of this story is that despite the many reasons why people may dislike each other, the path to peaceful and fulfilling coexistence lies in cultivating an open and understanding heart. The power of compassion and the ability to choose the right words and behaviors can transform relationships, dissolve misunderstandings, and lead us to a more enriching and meaningful life.